In 2025, the United States confronts an unsettling convergence of surging crime rates, economic instability, and intensifying natural disasters. States that once thrived on cultural heritage, natural beauty, or robust industries now rank among the most perilous places to live. This analysis employs crime statistics, economic indicators, and environmental data to rank the 10 most dangerous states, regions where living conditions have deteriorated to critical levels. 10. Louisiana. With homicide rates among the highest nationwide, Louisiana's criminal landscape has turned historic cities into zones of daily peril. In New Orleans and Baton Rouge, armed robberies and carjackings occur with alarming regularity, stretching law enforcement to its limits. Seasonal hurricanes and catastrophic floods compound this danger, displacing thousands and inflicting billions in damage each year. Meanwhile, the state's economy stagnates. Unemployment lingers above the national average. Poverty deepens in urban and rural parishes alike, and recurring political scandals erode public trust. As these intertwined crises intensify, Louisiana's path to recovery remains uncertain. 9. New Mexico. Beneath its sun-drenched vistas and rich cultural tapestry, New Mexico grapples with some of the nation's highest rates of violent assault and property crime. In Albuquerque, robberies have reached epidemic proportions. And Colorado. Colorado's reputation as an outdoor paradise has been overshadowed by a dramatic uptick in crime. Denver and Colorado Springs have seen double-digit increases in violent assaults, home invasions, and vehicular thefts. At the same time, a housing affordability crisis has driven many families into makeshift tent encampments, particularly in metro areas where rent has surged beyond reach. The state also confronts a severe fentanyl epidemic. Overdose fatalities are at record highs, and emergency rooms struggle under the influx of cases. Compounding these social challenges, harsher wildfires and flash floods, exacerbated by climate change, have rendered once stable communities increasingly uninhabitable. Arkansas. Arkansas's veneer of small-town charm has been pierced by a wave of violent crime that rivals urban centers. Little Rock and Pine Bluff report homicide rates that surpass those in certain conflict zones, fueled by gang rivalries and illicit drug markets. Rural counties, previously insulated by their remoteness, now record rising theft and property offences. Economic indicators paint a bleak picture. The state's median household income ranks among the lowest nationally, while underfunded schools and scarce job prospects perpetuate a cycle of poverty. When tornadoes, floods, and ice storms strike, recovery efforts falter amidst limited infrastructure and insufficient emergency funding. 6. Tennessee, Memphis, and Nashville, formerly celebrated for music and hospitality, have emerged as focal points of violent crime. Memphis, in particular, experiences a lethality that outpaces many global cities, with armed robberies and carjackings occurring in broad daylight. Tennessee's drug crisis, dominated by methamphetamine and fentanyl, has driven overdose deaths to unprecedented levels, creating cascading social and fiscal burdens. Concurrently, statewide inflation and widening economic disparities have spurred homelessness in both urban centers and rural towns. The increasing frequency of tornadoes, floods, and extreme heat waves further strains public services, challenging the state's capacity to respond effectively. 5. Missouri. Missouri bridges the rural and urban divide, yet both extremes face dire circumstances. Lewis and Kansas City record murder rates that rank among the world's most dangerous capitals, with drug-related violence and weapon offences dominating police blotters. Meanwhile, a methamphetamine epidemic ravages smaller communities, eroding social cohesion and local economies. The state contends with crumbling infrastructure. Roads, bridges, and public schools demand urgent repairs, while poverty deepens in neglected counties. Yearly tornadoes, crippling ice storms, and widespread flooding leave residents vulnerable to prolonged displacement and loss. Alaska. Alaska's striking landscapes mask profound social and economic distress. Violent crime rates, including domestic violence and substance-related offences, are alarmingly high, particularly in remote boroughs where law enforcement presence is minimal. The extreme cost of basic necessities, food, fuel, and housing far exceeds national averages, creating steep barriers for families and seniors. Limited job markets centered on oil, fishing, and government roles leave many residents with few opportunities. substance abuse and mental health crises have fueled one of the nation's highest suicide rates. Meanwhile, permafrost thaw, intensifying wildfires, and harsh winters threaten infrastructure and isolate communities, raising questions about long-term viability. 3. Oregon. Once hailed for progressive governance and verdant coastlines, Oregon now contends with urban decay and social disorder. Portland streets have become a battleground of violent assaults, carjackings, and pervasive drug use, inhibiting commerce and daily life. Homeless encampments have proliferated into suburban areas, creating public health emergencies along sidewalks and school zones. The state's experiment in decriminalizing hard drugs has coincided with an overdose surge, as fentanyl and meth flood urban neighborhoods. High taxes and inflated housing costs drive businesses and residents away, while record-breaking wildfires, floods, and landslides compound these challenges. 2. California. California's global allure of sunshine and innovation clashes with stark realities on its streets. Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland report unprecedented levels of violent crime and smash-and-grab thefts, emboldened by legal and enforcement gaps. Homelessness has engulfed entire districts in tent cities, with public sanitation and safety deteriorating. The cost of living, housing, fuel, sign, and taxes is among the highest nationally, forcing middle-class families to relocate or endure overcrowded conditions. Persistent rolling backouts, aging roads, and overtaxed infrastructure hamper economic productivity. Natural disasters, wildfires that consume towns, seismic threats, and chronic drought compound the risk and drive insurers to withdraw coverage, leaving many Californians exposed. 1. Nevada. Nevada's glittering casinos and desert vistas obscure a state in rapid decline. Las Vegas and Reno have become epicenters of a multifaceted crime wave, including rising rates of violent felonies and human trafficking. Soaring rental costs have spurred an underground homelessness crisis, with some residents sheltering in disused tunnel systems, vulnerable to extreme heat, floods, and criminal exploitation. Record summer temperatures and critical water shortages as Lake Mead recedes threaten both urban centers and agricultural regions. The casino-driven economy, while lucrative in boom times, proves volatile. Mass layoffs follow downturns, leaving thousands without recourse in an already strained social safety net. Conclusion: from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific frontier, America's most dangerous states in 2025 share converging epidemics of violence, economic strain, and environmental upheaval. The persistence of such conditions underscores the need for comprehensive solutions, bolstering public safety, investing in resilient infrastructure, addressing substance abuse, and fostering economic opportunity. Policymakers, community leaders, and citizens alike face a pivotal challenge: reversing these trends before these states' most precarious circumstances become irreversible. Building on the data and observations outlined above, it becomes clear that any meaningful reversal of these dangerous trends will require multi-layered, evidence-based interventions tailored to the distinct challenges of each state. First, public safety strategies must evolve beyond reactive law enforcement models toward proactive, community-oriented frameworks. This entails increasing funding for local police departments, particularly in understaffed rural and urban precincts, while simultaneously investing in crisis intervention teams, mental health services, and drug treatment programs to break the cycle of substance-related crime. States such as Tennessee and Missouri, where emergency hotlines and overdose responses are perpetually overwhelmed, would benefit from integrated dispatch systems that prioritize behavioral health professionals alongside sworn officers. Likewise, Arkansas and New Mexico could reduce unsolved case backlogs by expanding forensic labs, deploying mobile crime scene units, and standardizing data sharing protocols between municipal, county, and state agencies. Second, economic diversification must be prioritized to lift communities out of poverty and undercut the socioeconomic drivers of violence. In Louisiana, where hurricane recovery funds have too often been siphoned into short-term relief, rather than long-term job creation, targeted incentives for renewable energy projects, such as offshore wind and solar farms, could generate sustainable employment, while fortifying the electrical grid against storm damage. Alaska's over-reliance on oil and fishing revenues underscores the urgency of developing alternative industries, from ecotourism to digital services, that can thrive even in remote environments and stabilize local tax bases. In states with acute housing shortages, California, Colorado, and Nevada, public-private partnerships to build mixed-income communities would alleviate the homelessness crisis and restore downtown economic vitality. Third, infrastructure resilience must move from tax phrase to TOAD. Midwestern and southern states beset by tornadoes, floods, and extreme heat require nationwide adoption of climate-adaptive building standards. Flood-proof foundations in Missouri, reinforced storm shelters in Arkansas, and heat-resistant materials in Nevada's urban developments. Water management innovations, such as advanced leak detection in California's aging aqueducts and rainwater harvesting systems in drought-prone regions, will be indispensable as demand intensifies and supplies dwindle. Federal grants, matched by state bonds, can underwrite these upgrades, but oversight mechanisms must be strengthened to prevent cost overruns and ensure timely completion. Education and workforce development form the fourth pillar of long-term stability. Persistent generational poverty in states like Arkansas and New Mexico is tied to underfunded schools and limited vocational pathways. Expanding access to apprenticeships in trades, construction, advanced manufacturing, renewable energy, and bolstering community college enrollments with need-based grants can equip residents to participate in emerging job markets. Early childhood education programs, particularly in high-crime neighborhoods of Louisiana and Tennessee, can yield measurable declines in juvenile delinquency and set children on trajectories of academic and social success. Finally, transparent performance metrics and community engagement are essential to sustain progress. States must publish quarterly reports on crime rates, economic indicators, and disaster recovery milestones, allowing researchers, journalists, and citizens to track the impact of reforms. Listening sessions, structured forums that bring together law enforcement, social service providers, business leaders, and residents can surface local insights and foster collaborative problem solving. Only through coordinated, accountable action can these 10 states begin to reverse the interlocking crises of violence, economic distress, and environmental hazards that have rendered them the most dangerous in America.